Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now let's see what we have in store for you today. In today's story, the man says, I found out my wife was cheating on me with my friend when I read a message that popped up while she was drunk. Now this is an updated, complete story, so stay with us until the very end. So last night, I decided to have a relaxing evening with my wife of 7 years. I spent my evenings watching football and taking care of some last-minute tasks that I had planned, while she watched her shows in the den. She pulled out 2 bottles of wine and had been drinking it. She was passed out on the couch when I went to check on her at around midnight. Her iWatch buzzed and a message appeared on the screen as I went to pick her up. It read, "Haha, I can't do that. My name would knock 7 shades of crap out of me, LOL." I wondered what that was all about, so I pressed on it, and it was a conversation between my wife and a friend of mine. Now, I wouldn't say this guy is a close friend, but he is someone I've played five-a-sides with for years, drank with, and have known since we were teenagers. We used to call him jacket holder because when we got into scraps as teens, he'd always be the guy holding the jackets while everyone else went for it. I pushed on the conversation while this thing was still attached to her wrist and scrolled up to the top. And as far as I could tell, it was he who had contacted her first, unless some messages were deleted. There's lots of flirting and wink-winking going on, but nothing that you could outright say was cheating. Then I get to last night, when she's drunk. She started openly begging him to sleep with her. And I couldn't believe my eyes. She was saying things like how much she had always wanted him, how no one would ever find out if he did want to do something. The last one was the worst, where she was saying that she was great at keeping secrets. I tried to scroll on her watch but couldn't find any other messages, and I don't know her phone passcode. I put her in her bed and just sat in the kitchen in shock until I fell asleep. Then got up for work at about 5:30. When I went to get in my work van, I just slinked down on the wheel and realized I couldn't face it, so I went back into the house and grabbed a half-drunk bottle of vodka, filled to the top with Coke, and went on a walk down the railway line. You'd probably think that there's a fire going on from about a mile away due to the steam coming out of my ears. So what do? I don't want to speak to her. I can't even bear to look at her after reading that. I just feel like every morsel of love I had for her has evaporated into thin air after reading her begging like that. I honestly want to ghost her, man, and if I could, I would never speak to her again. The whole "I'm great at keeping secrets" was the thing that really got me. Like, who even are you? It reeks, but it's a case of how far down the rabbit hole do I want to go? I don't care if I'm being honest, I'm just done. I've never felt so betrayed and disgusted in all my life. The things I've invested so much in her, not just as a partner but as a person. I loved her so much and thought her personality, and by extension my personality, reflected that of good people. To realize she's a backstabbing snake makes me feel like a snake, and I feel like a worse person than I was yesterday. I'm lucky that the house we live owned by my parents, who 6 years ago moved to a retirement village. The house will be bequeathed to me when they pass, but I don't and hopefully won't own it for a long time. They couldn't be bothered with the upkeep and all the problems, etc., and wanted to live their final days in peace. So when we do divorce, my soon-to-be ex won't be getting her hands on it. So what do? I'm honestly thinking of just not saying a word and throwing her right out. Also, while walking here, it went through my mind to get my mate, who's a locksmith, to quietly change the locks today. I can tell her to come out and look at something out at the back, then I can just run back in and lock the door behind me. That sounds childish, doesn't it? Seriously though, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm staring at a bottle right now and my life feels like it has been ripped apart. As for that idiot so-called friend of mine, there's no doubt that he was up to something here. There's also no doubt that I wouldn't have caught wind of this at all. So I'll be seeing him very soon. Never mind holding jackets, he'll be holding his face. Here's the first update. So yesterday, after I had written this post and was in a complete mess, 2 dog walkers came over to check on me as I was obviously concerning them. I told them everything. They listened, and the first thing one of them said to me was, "Son, the worst thing you can do right now is drink. It'll cause carnage." I have to thank her for that because I was on the highway to hell at that point. I threw the vodka away, got in touch with a friend, and he said I could come to his for a while to calm down. We live in a small town of around 15,000 people, and he wasn't too far away, so once I got there, I sat on his couch just trying to calm down. Throughout the morning, I was getting multiple texts and phone calls from my wife asking where I was and what was up. as my work van was still sitting in the driveway and I was nowhere to be seen. I texted her back telling her that there was a problem with the engine, so I got a lift to work, which she seemed to buy, as she texted back saying okay. When my friend got back from work at about 5, I told him everything that had happened and asked him for his opinion. I also told him not to tell anyone about jacket holder, as that might get back to my wife, which I didn't want at this point. I would deal with him later. By that I mean I'll expose what a little rat he is. Knocking him out doesn't help me at all as of now. As an aside to the people saying he had done nothing wrong, he messaged my wife first. He was extremely flirty. Why is he even playing at messaging my wife in the first place? He only knows her in passing, from afar. Look, I've got no problem with two adults conversing with each other, but they hardly knew each other and it was flirty from the start. I think they've seen each other while out and about and it's gotten flirty then. So my friend convinced me to keep a low profile and see what I could dig up, but at the same time speak to a lawyer and get the ball rolling in terms of finding out my options. He took me home at about 6 and I was honestly dead on my feet by that point. I think the adrenaline pumping the entire day and then suddenly stopping knocks it right out of you, so I was extremely tired when I got home. The second I walked through the door, I knew something was up, as my wife was on me right away asking me all sorts of questions about work. I asked her why she even cared. She said that I'd left my big flask and my lunch bag in the front passenger side seat and something's been up today. She could feel it. I was about to lie, but I was just too tired. I couldn't be bothered putting any sort of charade up. So I just said, yeah, there's something up. When I was putting her drunk bottom to bed last night, a message came up on her iWatch, which I read, and that she was a disgusting cheat that I wanted nothing more to do with. Her demeanor went from an arms crossed person in power to a scared little girl within about a second. Good at keeping secrets, eh? Begging that little rat for sleep with you, eh? Yep, read it all. She started sobbing and I just walked away and upstairs into the shower. When I got out, she was sitting on the top stair still crying, and the excuses started right away. How she was drunk, vulnerable, had never done anything like that before, how he had messaged her first and it didn't mean anything. She was never gonna go through with it. Pretty much everything that everyone on here was saying. She would say like she had the playbook out. The only thing she didn't do was try and blame me. She probably knew that I would have thrown her right out the door if she had tried it. I told her that I wanted a divorce and her out of the house within a month. Also told her that she was moving to the spare room. I've been pretty much ignoring her ever since, just scowling at her and shaking my head when she starts waffling nonsense. I don't want to hear it. She slept in the spare room last night and I haven't spoken to or texted with her at all today. If I'm lucky, maybe she'll be gone when I get back from work, but my luck is not that good, I suppose. I was telling my parents what was happening and my mother was adamant I wasn't throwing her into the streets. She and my mother are close and has always been since we've been together for 11 years. My mother was saying she had made a mistake, that we should sort it out like adults, that we've been through too much together and that she didn't actually do anything, it was just words. She completely took her side over mine. Couldn't believe it. Do I have no right to ask her to leave if my mother is against it? It's literally going to be my house when my parents pass and I did nothing wrong, so I'm not leaving. It's probably going to turn into War of the Roses Part 2. I managed to get myself an appointment with a divorce lawyer for next week to discuss my options. Until then, I'm just gonna ignore my soon-to-be ex-wife, I guess. I knew she's probably not gonna admit anything else now. I'll never know if she was a really good liar or if she was just talking to him to get on side with her for an affair. Well guys, we have the second update coming up next, but before that, if you like what you heard so far, please hit that like button so this video will reach more beautiful people like you all over the planet. Right, on to the second update. It's been 20 days since I found out my wife was trying to cheat on me with my friend and the situation has become worse. I gave her a month to get out and she's been sleeping in the spare room, but it's clear now that she doesn't have any intention of going after she got in the ear of my mother. She doesn't have anywhere to go at any rate, but that's not my problem. I've seen my divorce lawyer multiple times and I'm now in the process of drawing up a divorce petition and having my wife serve divorce papers. I've also opened my own bank account and taken 50% of the balance from our shared account. The atmosphere around the house has been weird, to say the least. The living room has turned into a no man's land that no one frequents. As we both spend a majority of our time in our rooms, I had been completely ignoring her, but after reading about the 180, I have been civil if a little cold towards her. I'm so glad I did this, as I was beginning to feel like a monster refusing to acknowledge her existence. It was not the right way to behave and I ended up feeling like the one who had wronged her rather than the other way around. The only time I broke the 180 was when I walked into the bathroom last week and she was sitting on the floor by the bath crying. I helped her up and instinctively gave her a hug, though it was more of a there type of hug than one with much love attached to it. The sad thing is that I'm so suspicious of her now that I wouldn't put it past her to be waiting on me coming in so she could put on a performance. She's been crowing about how she'll do anything and everything to save this marriage, anything to prove to me that it was just a silly mistake, so I brought up a lie detector test. I don't plan on ever getting one done, wouldn't even know where to start, I just wanted to gauge her reaction. She was all for it, well, until a few hours later when she came to me, tablet in hand, going on about how inaccurate they are and that anxiety and nervousness can throw up false readings, and with her and her anxiety disorder and all, I just laughed. Wasn't even a normal chuckle either. It started as a bit of a cackle and ended in a childish giggle. It appears she would do anything to save this marriage. Well, everything except take a lie detector test. It doesn't even matter anyway. I meant what I said, and every morsel of love I had for her dissipated into the atmosphere after I read her say those horrible things. I don't see her as my true love anymore, the person I could tell anything to and would trust my life with. I just see trash, and trash that needs to be taken out before it stinks the place up. Jack, I told her, has been the talk of the town since I exposed him to our friend group a few weeks back. It's safe to say that he has no friends left among us and has been completely ostracized. I tried phoning him a few times, but he refused to answer and then blocked my number. To hell with that little rat. I hope it was worth it. I've spoken to my mother multiple times about this. During a heated argument, asked her why she was taking my wife's side. Like, was there something she wasn't telling me there? What was she expecting? Us to live like roommates? Go on like nothing happened? It's ridiculous. She said she had always seen my wife as the daughter she never had but always wanted. My mother had a stillborn daughter before I was born and it had haunted her. So she latched on to my wife and has done since we got together. As I said previously, they have a close bond. The fact my wife doesn't have any family and only a few friends who have their own busy lives and families means if I throw her out, she would be all alone, and my mum thinks that's unacceptable, especially during a pandemic. She tried to get me to come to a compromise, saying that in 3 or 4 months we could look at it again and see where we are mentally, and is pushing me to try couples counseling before I throw in the towel. I'm not doing that, and the thought of being in the same house as my wife over Christmas makes me feel ill. She'll want to do it right as she does every year, and it'll be complete BS. My dad, God love him, has never been much of a talker. Never up nor down, just always there. He's a quiet, proud but timid man, and my mother's word has always been the one that matters in our house. People on here have been telling me that I'm selfish and spoiled because it's not my house and I have no right to make demands, but it's now a case of my wife or me for my parents. If worse comes to worse, I'm ready to walk out the door and never come back. If I do leave, my friend said that I can stay with him for a few weeks or so till I get myself sorted. If I do walk out the door though, I'm done with my parents. I'll never speak to them again in my life. They'll probably see it as giving up on them. Me walking away without trying to at least have a go at fixing things first. I see it as them choosing someone who broke my heart over me. Like, what will be the logistics of this once I'm gone? Just her staying there herself? My mother and father looking after a backstabber while their flesh and blood goes off alone? A little more info on the house. My parents let us move in a year after our wedding. It was an apparent belated wedding gift. Although that was just the chatter from them at the time, they were always planning on moving out and moving us in. I've spent tens of thousands on it over the years, and that's neither here nor there. I have fantasies of leaving all this behind, going somewhere new and starting again, but I don't have anywhere else to go. I've lived in this town my entire life. It's all I know. Am I being too harsh here? I'm literally ready to slingshot my parents right out of my life, but I feel so torn. Why am I the one who has to lose everything and everyone? I've tried to be good, and I've always thought that you make your own luck and that good things happen to good people. Now here's the third update. Well, since this morning, I no longer call that house my home. I saw on the calendar that my wife had a hospital appointment with her ophthalmologist. So knowing she would be gone for a few hours, I took that as an opportunity to get my stuff together and move out. After getting my things moved and sorted, I just put the house keys on the kitchen table, along with the divorce papers I received from the divorce lawyer last week, and was on my way. I've blocked both my wife's and my mother's numbers, and any communication I have with my wife going forward will be done through my lawyer. In terms of my living situation, I'm staying with a friend for a week or two, but hopefully I should be in my own rented place before Christmas. I haven't spoken to my parents in a few weeks. Last time we spoke was via text, and I tried to tell my mother in explicit detail the things my wife was saying during her text to Jack. I told her why it hurt me so much and why I didn't think it was her first time doing it with the whole "I'm good at keeping secrets" comment, and thus could never trust her again. My mother texted back saying that she couldn't speak to me when I was like this and she would let me cool off. She tried to phone me a few days ago and I just blocked her call, and I said a bit further up, since today I have blocked her number. I feel so let down by my parents, and at this point it almost feels worse than the original betrayal from my wife. The way I'm feeling right now, I don't think I'll ever speak to them again. I think in times of strife, you look to your family to be strong for you, to be a rock and give you their support. My parents have been weak. They made me feel like the one in the wrong, like I'm overreacting, and it's me that's ripping this family apart. I didn't ask them to move mountains for me, just move my cheating wife out of the house, and they made their choice. My father also had the chance to put his foot down for once in his life and stand up for me, but didn't. You make your choices and you live with them, I guess. Reading some of the comments on here from my previous post, people have been saying things like, "I threw in the towel so easily. I was looking for a way out and didn't love my wife because I didn't try hard enough to save things," but that's not true. I loved my wife more than anyone on this earth, and I was broken when I discovered what she was doing. I think we all have boundaries. When I read those horrible texts, something changed inside of me. I fell out of love with her, like being snapped out of a spell in the movies. Anything tried after that is just delaying the inevitable. I have to say that I'm interested in the whole dynamic of their relationship now that I'm gone. Like, are my parents going to continue supporting her knowing that it has finished their relationship with their son? As for me, I'd love to travel. My wife hated flying, so most of our holidays has been to southern England, the likes of Newquay and Torquay in Cornwall and Devon. So it would be great to travel abroad again. I'd love to see a bit of America, so once this pandemic calms down, I've definitely got my sights on the States. Now here's the fourth update. I had made my decisions and done what I said I would, but I got a phone call this morning that has dragged me back into the mire. I have moved 15 miles away, changed my phone number, and I'm still in the process of divorcing my wife. She has completely ignored all requests from my divorce lawyer to cooperate, which has hindered things. We're now in the process of putting in an application for deemed service and trying to have her served officially by the courts. If she continues to ignore, then I can proceed with the divorce without her input. Well, this morning while at work, I got a phone call from my friend telling me that my dad was trying to get in touch as my mother is not well, and would it be okay if he gave him my number? I said okay, and my dad phoned to tell my mom is in hospital. She's stable, though not great. Obviously I was shocked, as I've not heard my dad's voice for so long. It was also the most emotional I've ever heard him. He told me my mom really wants to see me, so would I meet him at the hospital tonight or go in and see her with him? I said okay, and I've arranged to meet him outside the hospital. I ended up going home from work as I couldn't concentrate, and I'm climbing the walls here wondering if I made the right decision, wondering if I'm about to get dragged back into this BS that I walked away from. Why does she want to speak to me now? Has she had a change of heart? Will my wife be there? I have no interest in ever seeing her again. So I end up going to the hospital on Wednesday night. I was genuinely about to back out at the last minute as I felt my bottle crashing. But I needed some closure and knew that I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't go and something happened. When I drove into the hospital car park, I had this surreal feeling of paranoia and was half expecting my wife to jump out from behind a bush or something. I met my dad at the entrance and it was pretty awkward as he tried to hug me, and I said no. I then said if my wife is here in any shape or form that I'm about to turn and out the door. He assured me she wasn't, and we made our way to the ward where my mum was. When I saw my mother, I got the fright of my life as she looked like she had been in the war. Never have I seen her look so frail. She got a black eye, also a lot of bruising and purple yellowness down on the side of her face. She took a serious fall, broke 2 ribs, shattered her elbow and banged one side of her head or face on the ground. She looked zombified but perked up when she saw me. She told me how much she missed me and that she wasn't sure she'd ever see me again. We spoke for a bit about what exactly had happened and how she was down for a few hours before my dad found her. Also, she was determined to get back to normal and mend bridges with me. I brought up my wife and that I had been pushing for a divorce, but she was either ignoring the letters or wasn't getting them. So I asked if she's still in the house. Mom admitted she was, and Dad started to look uncomfortable. Mom started saying how lost my wife is without me and that she's not in a good way. I knew then that nothing would change. She had not had an epiphany or seeing things from a new perspective. She just wanted the status quo back. She said that the house is my home and always will be, but I told her I didn't want it. It means nothing to me anymore and all it holds are bad memories. I stayed for under an hour all in all, and when I left I said if I wanted to get in contact I would, but don't be waiting over the phone for me to call, as you might be waiting for a while. When Dad walked me out, he asked if I would keep in touch with him, and I said I would. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. Time will tell. When I got home, my emotions were a bit all over the place, from sadness to anger, but I'm glad I went. Now here's the fifth update. Firstly, I'm now in the home stretch in terms of divorce for my wife. She has signed the divorce papers and sent them to my divorce lawyer. So all that's left now are the formalities. She sent me a message via my dad where she said she was sorry for not letting me move on, that she thought she could save things, but now she knows she can't, and she has to move on for her own well-being. I thank her for seeing sense. She doesn't want anything in the divorce and said she's going to move out of the house when she can get on her feet, which I'm okay with. In terms of my mother, I haven't spoken to her yet, but my dad says she's doing a lot better after getting out of the hospital and getting some normality back. I don't know how things will pan out with them, but I've said that if the house is going to be mine, then I want them to put it in my name now to give me some security. Then we can start trying to build bridges. We'll see how that goes. Now we are on to the final update. First things first, I'm now officially divorced. Feels like a weight has been lifted, but also a firm end to what was nearly a third of my life. I actually saw my ex-wife for the first time since last December as I was walking into a shop in the town centre about a month back after visiting a friend. She was opening the door to walk out just as I walked in. We were both wearing masks, but I noticed it was her right away and we made eye contact. She mumbled something that I couldn't make out, and then we just sort of stared at each other for a few seconds. Then I walked inside. As I was walking around the shop, this feeling of utter sadness just enveloped me and I had to take a minute to compose myself. It just goes to show all it takes is just one look for you to fall straight back into square one. Do I miss her? No, I miss the person I thought she was, but that person doesn't exist anymore. I don't wish her hurt or hardship though, I really don't. I just refuse to move forward any longer with hatred in my heart. The only person it'll burden in the long run is me. I also found out from a friend's girlfriend that she was sure she saw my ex-wife outside a pub in the city all over another guy a couple of years back. Apparently she had never said anything to me because she wasn't sure it was her and she didn't want to meddle. I'm extremely angry with her, as I could have done with her and that information years ago. It's hardly conclusive, but I could have confirmed if she was out that night, etc., and it would have saved me a lot of heartache in the long run. Betrayal just renders such passionate and invasive thoughts. There's no action on this earth quite like it. Being stabbed in the back by people that you love. In so many ways it's unique, and the emotions you feel after it are by the same token equally unique. So cheers for hearing me out. I said in my first post after finding out that I felt like a worse person than I was yesterday. Well, after everything that has happened, I feel like a stronger one too. Thank you for reading my story. Man, I have to say I'm really proud of you. You just handled it like a gentleman. So kudos to you and live your life to the fullest with the people you trust. Good luck. Please like and share the story with your friends. Also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.